The alarm clock screams through the stillness. It's not just waking you up, it's pulling you back into the battle. And for a moment, just a moment, you remember who you are. Not the person wrapped in yesterday's worries, but the seeker, the dreamer, the architect of a life yet built. You feel that flicker of promise, that whisper, today could be different. But then, your hand finds the snooze button, and with that one small unconscious act, 1,000 silent agreements are made. Agreements with mediocrity, with delay, with self-betrayal. A truce signed with the part of you that thrives in comfort but dies in potential. You see, the problem isn't your morning routine. It's much deeper than that. It's who you're becoming before your feet ever touch the floor. It's not about cold showers and green smoothies. It's about the quiet war between who you are and who you were meant to be. Let me be brutally honest with you. A broken morning is not a scheduling problem. It's a strategy of identity, sabotaged by habits that serve the lesser version of yourself. Because the truth? Most people don't have a morning routine at all. They have a morning reaction. Wake up, check phone, scroll news, open inbox, compare, react. Before sunrise, they've already surrendered their inner world to the noise of the outer. Do you think Edison woke up scrolling through thoughts of what could go wrong? Do you think Tesla began his day asking how many likes his latest post would get? Did Lincoln, through the fog of war and the weight of a divided nation, open his day with distraction or with discipline? Your morning is not just the start of your day. It is the start of your philosophy. And philosophy shapes destiny. But let's ask the honest question. If morning truly unveils the soul's intent, what does your current routine say you believe about yourself? Let that sit, because belief is the root of everything. It's not just what you do, it's what you expect. When you rise in the morning and walk like someone the world is waiting on. When your first breath is deliberate, your first thought one of purpose. You're building a life brick by brick, hour by hour. Not just living, but leading. Now, I'm not here to preach another perfect system. The world has plenty of gurus selling morning hacks like it's candy. Wake at 4 a.m. Meditate for 20 minutes. Journal with gold pens. Drink water blessed by Himalayan monks. Listen, excellence isn't found in imitation. It's in intention. And there's a reason 99% never find it. Let's take a walk back through time. Back to Carnegie, visiting a young reporter named Napoleon Hill, challenging him to spend 2 decades uncovering what makes greatness tick. Not what's trending, what's timeless. That research led to a truth. Success leaves clues, but it never leaves them in the obvious places. Hill learned something most people still don't understand. Success begins before the action. Prosperity begins before the movement. Transformation begins before the sunrise. It begins with the mind primed and trained like an athlete before war. You cannot engage the day as a civilian of chance. Not if you want to live the life of a general. And especially not in an age where attention is the new oil, and your phone is the drill that mines it daily. See, your fight is not just against time. It's against entropy of the spirit, against passive programming, against letting culture write your identity before you've even had your first conscious thought. Jim Rohn once said, "Set the sail, don't wait on the wind." But most people, their sails aren't even up, because their minds are cluttered with excuses programmed the minute they wake. What are you thinking in those sacred first 20 minutes? I'll tell you this. Winners begin their day on purpose. Losers begin their day on autopilot. From the inner cities to Silicon Valley, from basement apartments to corner offices, you can almost predict the trajectory of someone's entire life by looking at how they spend their first 2 hours from waking. Because how you start sets the tone for how you decide. And how you decide defines your character. And character? That's the bridge between destiny and destruction. But here's what they forgot to teach you. You don't find clarity in the morning. You install it. It's not stumbled upon, it's summoned. Deliberately. With force. With faith. Like a commander raising his banner and saying, "I don't care how I feel. I care who I'm becoming." Because feelings lie. Feelings whisper comfort when your greatness demands chaos. Growth is forged in discomfort, not ease. And clarity comes not when it's convenient, but when it is commanded. The reason your morning routine might be failing you is because you haven't made it sacred. How sacred is that first hour? Do you protect it like a monk guards his temple? Or do you treat it like spare change, tossed away for screen time and dopamine hits? Because let me be clear, the world is not neutral. Your phone is not neutral. Your thoughts are not neutral. They are all pulling you in a direction. But is it a direction you chose? Wayne Dyer said, "You'll see it when you believe it." But belief isn't an accident, it's a ritual. And the moment your eyes open, rituals are already forming. So here's the correction. If your routine feels hollow, if another sunrise leaves you uninspired, unclear, unmotivated, don't fix the behavior. Fix the belief. Don't copy someone else's miracle morning. Craft your own mission morning. Build it around your values, your vision, your energetic DNA. Come back to this. Who am I becoming by 7 a.m.? If your answer doesn't stir your marrow, it's time to rebuild. Because vision without ritual is hallucination, and ritual without heart is just busyness in disguise. Let me give you a truth, one that most motivational books miss. Momentum is emotional. It doesn't come from checklists. It comes from creation, from soul-stirring, sweat-pouring, future-shaking vision. Start creating your mornings like an artist approaches canvas. Look at it, study it, then paint it fiercely and without apology. Because that blank hour before the world reaches for you is the only space where you are still completely yours. But let me tell you what happens if you don't. Entropy sets in. You start shrinking to fit the mold society carved for you. You start reinforcing outdated limitations with every snoozed alarm. You wake up later and rush. Rush becomes your rhythm. Panic becomes your personality. And before you know it, you end up wondering, what happened to my fire? What happened to my dreams? What happened to the version of me I swore I'd become? Answer: you let the morning drift. And when you drift, destiny never docks. It floats away, to someone else's shore, to someone who was willing to own their first hour, before the world had a say. You don't need another app. You don't need another planner. You need identity. Rooted, ruthless, radiant. Because once your identity shifts, your rituals shift. And that rewrites everything. Let's talk discipline. Because routines are meaningless without binding vows. A code of conduct more powerful than motivation could ever be. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is a furnace. Motivation is mood. Discipline is muscle. And you build that discipline in the morning, when no one is watching, when the only accountability is your reflection at sunrise. Remember, freedom lives in discipline. Every distracted morning steals from your future. But every dialed-in, locked-in ritual stacks bricks on your internal empire. Think of Elon Musk running 5 companies with precision, but beginning his day with scientific intention, not social noise. Think of Oprah meditating with purpose, framing her morning around gratitude, not grievance. Think of Stephen R. Covey preaching the power of sharpening the saw. Honoring the soul first, knowing it fuels all other acts. None of them start their days by default, and neither should you. You're not here to be part of the average. You're here to rise like fire from the ashes, like steel born from sweat and pressure. To create mornings so intentional, they rebuild every broken belief you've carried since childhood. But here's the final hammer stroke for now. You are not a prisoner of your past routines. You are the director of your soul's prime hours. You can decide today how your mornings rewrite your mission. Not someday, not when life calms down. Now, because the day waits for no one, and neither does destiny. And the person who masters sunrise, masters everything. The challenge isn't in waking up early. It's in waking up with purpose. Because you can rise at 5 a.m. every day and still be lost. Still be scrolling. Still be waiting for someone to hand you clarity like it's a gift. But clarity, real clarity, it's earned, fought for, revealed through resistance. You want the secret to unstoppable mornings? Burn this into your thinking. You do not become disciplined in the morning. You gather the evidence that you already are. Each sunrise is not a test, it's a mirror. And that mirror, brutally honest, it doesn't reflect your goals. It reflects your standards. What have you decided are the non-negotiables of your life? Not preferences. Standards. Preferences are for the comfortable. Standards are for the future titans. Henry Ford demanded his men show up with precision. Innovation was built into the bones of his schedule. Every minute accounted for. Every morning began with mechanical clarity, because he understood that mental fog is the death of execution. And that's the disease plaguing most morning routines today. Mental fog. Too many people begin their day in a haze. Mentally reactive. Emotionally uncertain. Spiritually numb. Why? Because their night is toxic. Let's shine a light on this. Your morning begins the night before. Let me say that again, louder. Your morning begins the night before. You cannot poison your subconscious with hours of distraction, Netflix, arguments, overstimulation, and then expect to rise with clarity and purpose. The mind is soil, and you're planting weeds before your dreams even get a chance to root. You fall asleep to chaos, and you wake to confusion. Every day. No wonder you're losing the battle at sunrise. Let's be clear. Greatness is not just built in the morning, it is protected by your evening standards. Create a nighttime ritual like your dreams depend on it, because they do. Set intentions before you close your eyes. Plan the next day. Reflect in gratitude. Review your identity statements. And disconnect from the world that wants to own your mind. Because sleep is not escape, it's integration. While you sleep, the mind isn't resting, it's organizing. It's stacking your intentions, your beliefs, your experiences. And if all you give it is noise, then all you'll be building in the morning is confusion wrapped in fatigue. Wayne Dyer would start each evening by saying silently, "I will awaken to my purpose." Those words carried weight because they were said with certainty. That's what you've forgotten, somewhere between the alarms and the noise. The certainty of becoming. You're not lost. You're just distracted from your purpose. And distraction is easier than ever. But nothing, absolutely nothing of lasting value, is built through ease. Let's dive into what matters most, identity. You see, your morning routine is simply an amplifier of who you truly believe you are. Let me ask you, are you a leader of your life? Or just a participant waiting to be told what to do? Because if you rise in the morning and don't speak intention over your life, if you don't declare who you are and where you are going, then life will deliver random outcomes designed by default, not design. Brendan Burchard calls this living with intention. He teaches not to just have a good day, but to generate energy, bring clarity, declare influence. Powerful days don't happen. They are initiated. But here's the piece people miss. The energy, clarity, motivation, all of it doesn't come from the outside. It's summoned from the inside through alignment. Alignment with your values. Alignment with your goals. Alignment with your words, your actions, your rituals. Without alignment, you'll always feel like something is off. Like your morning routine is missing something. Because it is. It's missing authenticity. You've been trying to follow trends. Trying to perform someone else's success template. Steve Jobs didn't do that. He carved routines around his obsessions. He protected his focus like a monk. He wore the same thing each day not because it was cool, but because it allowed his mind to stay wildly free to build the future. Stop building routines that make you look successful. Start building routines that make you become unshakable. That means you stop aiming to crush your to-do list and instead commit to becoming before producing. Build the being, and the doing flows. It begins by asking the question every morning, who must I become today to earn the life I see in my dreams? Not what must I do? Not how many emails must I send? Who must I become? This is the ancient truth modern society has abandoned. Being comes before doing. Action without intention is emptiness. And if your intentions are shallow, your actions are scattered. Write this in your heart. Your morning isn't just a time slot. It's a spiritual battleground. And you are either walking into it with armor forged from commitment and fire, or you are walking in naked, hoping to make it through the day untouched. That hope is weakness. That hope is why you feel behind. That hope is not a strategy, it's a prison. You break free with this internal declaration. I command my morning because I command my character. And character commands destiny. Yes, you'll stumble. Yes, you'll crave comfort again. But each day you recommit to rising with intention. You are reclaiming your future, breath by breath. Now, I want to speak directly to the belief system that's been sabotaging you. I'm not a morning person. That small sentence is a limiting belief wrapped in a cultural excuse. Let me be clear. You don't have to be a morning person. You have to be a purpose person. And purpose doesn't punch a clock. Your biology is real, but it's not an excuse to stay undisciplined. Your energy may peak at different times, but that is no reason to wake up passive when life itself is calling you to greatness. You think Lincoln had perfect sleep when the Union was in collapse? You think Martin Luther King Jr. woke up rested with a schedule squeaky clean? History doesn't remember comfortably rested people. It remembers the ones who got up anyway. It remembers the ones who chose to rise when they didn't feel like it. The ones who stepped into discomfort and used that power as emotional leverage. That's what Earl Nightingale meant when he said, We become what we think about most of the time. So let me ask you, what are you thinking about first thing in the morning? Fear? Comparison? Confusion? Or are you thinking in alignment with the life you want? Because if you're not, it's not the morning's fault. It's not the alarm's fault. It's the lack of preparation for identity long before dawn breaks. Don't build a routine. Build a rhythm. You don't want a checklist. You want a harmony between mind, body, spirit, and mission. You want to be able to rise and say, "This moment is mine. This breath is mine. This destiny, I claimed it before the world even opened its eyes." And when adversity comes, which it will, when the world is on fire and your plans unravel, you'll still have that one sacred place, your morning, where you rise not because things are perfect, but because your fire is too powerful to sleep through life anymore. This is where resilience is forged, not in the noise, but in the silence between your breath and your choice. You choose to rise. You choose to lead your morning. You choose to build identity before you build productivity. Because routines don't create greatness. Rituals led by purpose do. And your life? Your legacy? It all begins when you fix the routine with a deeper truth. You were never supposed to follow a morning system. You were born to forge one. Not one that simply makes you efficient, but one that makes you awake. That system begins inside you, with a decision no alarm clock can make. You decide, this morning, I rise like the sun, not just to exist, but to set fire to every part of my life that was made for more. Let's rip away every lie you've told yourself about why your mornings don't matter. You said you'll start when life slows down. You said you'd fix your routine after the next big change, the vacation, the move, when the kids go back to school, when you finally feel like it. But those aren't reasons. They're traps. Delays dressed up as logic. Lies draped in rationality. Excuses insulated by society because mediocrity no longer shocks us. It's accepted. But not by you. Not anymore. The reason your morning routine might be failing isn't because you don't have discipline. It's because you haven't felt the urgency of your mission in your bones. And that's where transformation begins, not in time management, but in time ownership. You own nothing until you own your morning. So let's strip it all the way back. Before the coffee, before the stretching, meditation, affirmations, before the gym selfies and stoic quotes on Instagram. What does the soul need at sunrise? One word, intention. Not just to optimize your time, but to align it. Because when life is aligned, energy flows. Ideas spark. Decisions sharpen. You stop needing motivation because you've stepped into momentum. But what creates alignment? Purpose. Not the fluffy kind. The kind that won't let you sleep. The kind that haunts your comfort. The kind that whispers, you were made for more than this. Purpose isn't found in a journal. It's activated through courageous repetition. Through rising when the body screams for convenience. Through showing up again and again, even when no one is applauding. Because purpose doesn't need applause, it creates it. And that deep intention has to be loudest when the world is silent, before dawn breaks, before emails flood in, before the rush resumes. In that first sacred hour, you lay bricks on the foundation of the future. Don't believe it? Look at history again. Benjamin Franklin asked himself the same question every morning. What good shall I do this day? That single question shaped failed experiments into breakthroughs. Shaped daily structure into something history would call genius. The lesson? He didn't stumble into excellence. He scheduled it. He committed to it daily. And what about you? What question have you been waking up with? If it's what's happening online, you're being shaped by distraction. If it's what do I have to do today, you're being ruled by obligation. But if the question is, who am I here to become today through how I choose to rise? Then you're stepping into legacy, not just routine. You're transforming every sunrise into a sacred vow with your future self. Because here's what no one wants to tell you. Most people spend more time choosing their breakfast than choosing their belief system. They'll rearrange diets, try new supplements, switch which side of the bed they get up on. But they won't reprogram the only thing that dictates their reality, their self-concept. You want to fix your morning. Fix how you see yourself. Because if you still see yourself as someone who's trying to be successful, trying to be consistent, trying to be focused, that identity leaks into every thought, every step, every breath. Self-image is the ceiling of transformation. The root of why so many morning routines fail is because deep down, people are living in conflict. They're taking actions that don't align with their deepest self-perception. They wake up doing what successful people do, but in their subconscious, they still see themselves as unworthy, undisciplined, average. That contradiction is like driving with the pedals slammed on both gas and brake. The engine roars, but you don't go anywhere. That's why the most powerful morning upgrade is not just another behavior. It's a belief, a new internal contract. Try this. Before you touch your phone, before you pour your coffee, before words escape your lips or thoughts flood your mind, speak a new identity. Command it. Don't just think it. Say it. Live it. Breathe it. I am disciplined. I am decisive. I am a creator of impossible outcomes. The world does not define me. I define the day. Not affirmations from a place of lack, but declarations from a place of own destiny. Because repetition is how the brain rewires. And the brain will believe what the mouth speaks consistently, especially when spoken with conviction. That's not law of attraction fluff. That's neuroscience. Neurons that fire together wire together. Speak it, feel it, embody it, and each morning becomes a neurological investment into becoming that person. Discipline doesn't begin in action. It begins in language. Let me paint this for you. Every sunrise is a pull between two selves. One is familiar. It wants comfort. It wants convenience. It wants 5 more minutes. The other self? That's the forged self. The high-performance being living inside you, waiting for command approval. You vote on which gets stronger every single morning. Now here's what separates those who live intentionally from those who sleepwalk through life. They don't negotiate with mediocrity. They do not ask permission to become who they are. And they sure as hell don't seek comfort before they've earned it. Les Brown once shouted with that legendary fire in his voice, "You gotta be hungry." Hunger is not emotion. Hunger is decision. And if you've let your mornings become dull, silent, reactive, then let now be the moment you rekindle the hunger. For clarity, for greatness, for light to return to your soul upon waking, not through caffeine and apps, but through purpose roaring through your veins. The world is not waiting on the next person to wake up early. It's waiting on the next person to wake up on fire. So stop following the morning rituals of YouTube influencers with hollow hearts and start architecting rituals that are rooted in your values. Because when value guides ritual, time becomes sacred. And when time becomes sacred, everything changes. You begin to protect your energy, not from fear, but from reverence. Your mindset becomes a temple, not a trash bin for unfiltered thoughts. Your focus narrows. Your clarity expands. Your feet hit the ground not with dread, but with declaration. This is where we make the shift. From routine to embodiment. From schedule to devotion. From passing time to building eternity. You decide. Do you want to spend the first hour of your day reacting to the world's agenda? Or do you want to spend it writing your legacy on your terms in your language? Because you can if you're willing to let go of who you were and become who you were always meant to be. It's not easy. It's not painless. There will be resistance, loud, ugly, bitter resistance. But the presence of struggle does not mean you failed. It means transformation is working. Greatness always hits friction before flight. So whether your routine starts at 4 a.m. or 9 a.m., whether you meditate, journal, or blast music and stretch in silence, it doesn't matter what you do until you've decided why you do it. And once that why is clear, once you stack rituals under a purpose greater than habit, something incredible happens. You don't just wake up different. You evolve. You outgrow passive behavior. You lose the taste for meaningless input. You crave clarity like oxygen. You move faster. You stand taller. Your energy multiplies because you're no longer waiting for motivation. You're no longer chasing systems that don't fit your soul. You are scripting your life from the inside out. And everything starts from how you command the first hour. Why might your morning routine be failing? Because you haven't remembered who you are. You're not here to fit in. You're not here to blend in. You're not here to scroll yourself into distraction and sip lattes while forgetting the work that must be done inside you. You were built for movement, for intention, for transformation. And it starts not next week, not next month, not when you're ready. Right now, next sunrise, with you. So let's talk about something few are willing to face. Because it cuts deeper than alarm clocks and productivity tips. It cuts into identity decay. That slow erosion of who you once dreamed to be. That subtle drift, year after year, decision by decision, morning after mindless morning, where fire turns to smoke, and smoke disappears into air. You used to believe. There was a time you looked in the mirror and saw potential. Real potential, power, vision, fire, but one unchecked routine born of survival, not strategy. And suddenly, you became a lesser version of yourself. You didn't choose mediocrity. You drifted into it. And the most dangerous part of the drift? You barely notice. You lie to yourself. It's just a phase. It's just a busy season. I'll get serious tomorrow. But tomorrow becomes a thief. Tomorrow becomes the lie that kills momentum. Because tomorrow never came armed with your full intention. Let me gut this open for you. If your mornings lack fire, your life will lack direction. If your mornings are chaotic, your choices will be scattered. If your mornings are reactive, your soul will feel constantly behind. Because the state you wake up in shapes the state you move through the day with. And state governs belief. And belief shapes everything. Even science is catching up to what the philosophers knew long ago. The brain, the body, the emotional system, they're all trainable. Your mind is plastic, not fixed. Your emotional wiring, changeable through consistent experience. That means your morning routine isn't just a schedule. It's a neurological and spiritual reprogramming arena. You are training possibility. And every morning is another set, another repetition, another vote cast for the future version of you. But you can't train possibility if you're not rooted in purpose. So if something's broken in your mornings, look at this one place. Have you written down verbatim who you are and who you are becoming? Because here's a brutal truth. If your mission isn't scripted, your mornings will be scripted by default. And the language of default says things like, just get through it. Let's see what today holds. Maybe if I'm lucky today will be better. That is loser language, injected silently into your identity until it becomes your life. But the great ones program the day before it begins. They practice mental conditioning long before the meeting, or the workout, or the $1,000,000 decision. They don't hope to have clarity, they drill it. They don't wish for momentum, they manufacture it. Tony Robbins calls this priming. And he's right. If life is war, and each day is a battle, then your mind is the general tasked with giving the order. But if you're not giving orders, life will. Social media will. The headlines will. Other people's agendas will. And if you're not watchful, they'll reprogram you to chase dopamine instead of destiny. That's why the most important ritual you can build at sunrise is mental command. Speak to your mind. Speak to your emotions. Speak to your mission. Before the world speaks to you. This isn't spiritual fluff. This is how focus is built. This is how leaders are made. You want the edge? Bring back the basics, executed with ferocity. Stillness, reflection, declaration, activation. The kind that pulls your soul into the present with such force that even your DNA starts listening. Let's get granular. What does a forge morning look like? It doesn't start with an alarm. It starts with a decision the night before that the next day is sacred. You wake. No snooze. You don't delay destiny. You sit up. You breathe, deep and intentional. Before you pick up your phone, you pick up your inner compass. You revisit your mission, yes, every morning. Because repetition carves devotion. You speak your declaration. I am not here to sleepwalk. I am not here to follow. I am here to lead. I step into the world with intensity, clarity, and grace. You move your body, not for vanity, but for vibration. You sweat because the body was meant to stir the spirit. You write, not to be productive, but to be present. To know your thoughts. To locate your fears. To call out your truths before the world distorts them. And then you ask the single question every pillar of greatness asks. What one bold move will most align me with my vision today? You don't fill the day with tasks. You aim it like a weapon. One move, one target, laser intensity. You honor your design. You don't copy someone else's sacred hour because your wiring is unique. You ask, what gets me in flow? What activates me? What calms me? What renews me? For some it's silence. For some it's music. For some it's movement. The medium doesn't matter, only the intention beneath it. Rich routines come from radical alignment, not imitation. But this, you must understand. Whatever your method, if it's built on distraction, it will inevitably become destruction. There is no growth in waking up and handing your brain to notifications, gossip, reaction loops, and digital chaos. There is no miracle in mornings you don't command. So if your routine keeps breaking, if your rhythm keeps slipping, It's time for deep internal work. Start with this question. What would the next level version of me never do in their first hour? Would they scroll aimlessly? Would they complain before they create? Would they look outward before going inward? Then burn those behaviors. Yes, burn them. Because with every unnecessary habit left unchecked, you're giving away sacred power. And the universe doesn't reward people who can't steward what they already have. If you can't lead your first hour, how can you lead others? A business, a vision, a mission, a legacy? The greatest leaders in history, Roosevelt, Churchill, Mandela, they all understood something we forget. Your public power is directly reflective of your private rituals. Not how you speak in front of a crowd, but how you rise when no one's watching. You want that kind of magnetic power? Then build mornings that match the weight of your destiny. Protect them like soldiers. Guard them like sacred treasure. Wake with such fire that the world knows something has shifted. And when temptation hits, because it always will, don't shrink. When the pillow feels heavy, when the night wants to steal your morning promise, remember this. Your routine is a symbolic vote for who you're becoming. And you never place a weak vote. You rise boldly. You strike first. You win before the world opens. Because you've already aligned your soul with heaven itself. That's the real morning miracle. Not waking early, but waking with integrity. Waking with vision. Waking with discipline burning through your chest like the very breath of God. This is what the greats understand, and what the world desperately needs to remember. Morning isn't just when you wake up. It's when the future opens its door and asks if you're ready to walk in. And here's the part they never teach you in those shallow productivity books. Mornings aren't won by the strong. They're claimed by the ones who burn with belief more than they burn with energy. You think discipline belongs to the motivated? No. Discipline belongs to the convinced. Those who've decided, deep in the marrow of their bones, that living an ordinary life is no longer an option. That's the turning point. Not a new planner, not a new podcast, but a hard stop. A line carved into your soul that says, from this hour forward, I do not negotiate with smallness. Because watch what happens next. A new internal order takes shape, clear, clean, and unstoppable. It starts when you treat your first hour not as a schedule, but as a ceremony. Ceremonies are sacred. You don't rush through them. You don't check them off like tasks. You step into them with reverence, with presence, with power. You begin to move through your morning with precision. Not robotic, ritualistic. You speak less. You listen deeper. You set the tone, not just emotionally, but chemically, neurobiologically, spiritually. You design intention into every sound, every breath, every movement. Think of it like tuning an orchestra. Every section of your morning, tuned to pitch, tempo, and harmony. And when they come together, mind, body, and soul, they don't make noise. They make momentum. Suddenly, your thoughts are clearer. Your actions more decisive. Your energy, unmistakably electric. Not because of routines, but because of resonance. You're finally aligned with your own life. And this is where confidence is born. You ever wonder why the most powerful people seem oddly calm, even in chaos? It's because they don't start the day chasing. They started centered, rooted. They already did the work when the world was asleep. That's not confidence, it's certainty. And it's forged in the dark. Before cameras roll. Before applause. Before metrics and milestones. And this is where your morning begins to elevate something greater than performance. It begins to elevate purpose. So let's be very real now. Because there's something deeper than your habits. Deeper than your discipline or even your beliefs. It's your calling. Yeah, remember that? That small, burning whisper that won't leave you alone? That dream you shoved under the rug like it would disappear? That idea, that mission, that energy that visits you in silence. Let me tell you something. Your calling cannot survive in a life that begins each day with distraction. It's too sacred for that. It needs space. It needs stillness. It needs a rhythm that is protected from the noise of the modern world. That's why your mornings matter more than anything, because that's when the voice of your calling is the loudest, just before the world tries to mute it. And if you silence it again, if you let another day pass in urgency without direction, another week in motion without meaning, then don't ask why your soul feels tired, because purpose starved long enough becomes pain. Your routine isn't just about discipline, it's about healing. It's about bringing back alignment between who you are and who you are called to become. In those first focused minutes after you rise, you're not just brushing your teeth and making your bed. You are reconstructing your destiny, because it's in these still moments that the architect within you reawakens. It's where you remember that your life isn't a random sequence of events, but a blueprint waiting to be built by someone who shows up every day with hammer in hand. Let me ask, when was the last time you looked out the window in the early light and felt awestruck? Not because things were perfect, not because you had clarity, but because deep down inside you remembered. You're still alive. You still get to rise. You still get to start again. You still get to write your name on this chapter. That awareness, that's the foundation of gratitude. And gratitude is the fuel of unstoppable resilience. When you begin your morning with gratitude, you exit survival mode. You stop hunting for what's missing and begin activating what's already yours. Try this. Before you do anything, before your feet hit the floor, whisper 5 things you're deeply, soulfully thankful for. Not surface fluff. Not, I'm thankful for sunlight. Get real. Get raw. I am thankful my mother lived through that storm. I am thankful my mind can still think. I am thankful that no matter what life has thrown, I did not quit. This isn't poetic, it's power engineering. Gratitude shifts your biochemistry. It rewires the frontal cortex. It activates the parts of the mind responsible for resourcefulness and clarity. You want solutions. Innovate from abundance, not scarcity. You want momentum. Move from appreciation, not avoidance. Successful mornings are not built on guilt. They're built on gratitude, because guilt might get you moving. But gratitude keeps you going. And from there, now we're ready to talk about action. The world doesn't reward clarity alone. It rewards movement. Even the best morning routine will fall flat if it doesn't lead to strategic war, the kind of action that builds, not just grinds. It's not about doing more. That's busy work. It's about choosing what matters most and doing that one thing without compromise. This is what Brian Tracy called eating the frog. Find the boldest, most high-leverage task of the day and attack it while the world yawns. Why? Because fatigue steals your courage. If you wait till later, your energy will betray you. But in the earliest hours, when the world's grip hasn't yet reached your throat, that is when you are most dangerous. That's when you strike, not wildly, but precisely. Not reactively, but deliberately. That's when you stop spinning in circles and start sculpting results. This is where goals transform from ideas into inevitabilities. Action built on clarity. Discipline wrapped in purpose. Momentum moved by soul. Now you're not doing a routine. You're conducting a symphony every single dawn. You're not chasing success. You're drawing it to you. By becoming the kind of person, ritually, rhythmically, spiritually, who cannot help but create it. And what's the real reward? Not the money, not the metrics. It's that gaze in the mirror at 6 a.m. when you realize that for the first time in years, you're not looking for yourself anymore. You found them, right there in the silence, in the sweat, in the sacred fire of commitment. You fully awake. You fully present. You finally living a deliberate life. That's the miracle of a morning reclaimed. It's not the result, it's the resurrection. You don't just start the day. You start again. Better, wiser, sharper, stronger. And now you're ready to truly live. By now you feel it. This isn't about adding steps to your morning. This is about shedding layers. Layers of noise, layers of guilt, layers of who you thought you had to be, and revealing the warrior underneath, the one who's been waiting patiently, sometimes in silence, for you to return to them. The person who doesn't need the world's approval to validate their mission. The one who moves with fire before the sun rises. Because understand this, if you don't direct the day will direct you. And it won't be towards purpose. It'll be towards comfort, distraction, delay. And that delay, it's expensive. It costs dreams unrealized. It costs books unwritten. It costs businesses unfounded, bodies untrained, relationships unhealed. And most of all, it costs time. The one thing no one gets more of. Every great person figured this out early. Time isn't just a measure, it's a mirror. And the way you treat your first hour will reflect the way you live your decade. Let that land. You want to measure the trajectory of someone's life. Watch what they do at 6 a.m. Do they lead? Or do they scroll? Do they own their breath? Or outsource it to algorithms? Because every empire begins when one soul, in one quiet hour, tells the universe, I will not live asleep another moment. There's a reason why some of the most world-altering ideas, Tesla's visions, Thoreau's writings, Jobs' innovations, We're born not in chaos, but in silence. Mornings not filled with notifications, but with notebooks, stillness, and obsession. Modern society has made stillness suspect. You sit in a quiet room, and everyone thinks something's wrong. But stillness is where power matures. Stillness is where seeds become trees. Stillness is where you hear the signal in the static. Your morning must include this, even just 10 minutes. 10 minutes where the world has no access to you. No alerts, no entertainment, no distractions. Only effort, reflection, vision. That time is sacred. You are unreachable, because you've turned inward where transformation begins. Stephen Covey called this sharpening the saw. You're not cutting through life blindly, hoping it works out. You're preparing training, so when resistance appears, it's met with sharp intention. You're no longer hacking through life with a dull blade. You're cutting with precision, because your edge was earned in the early hours. But let's talk about resistance, because it will come. There will be days the alarm rings and your body lies to you. It will say, you need rest. It will say, today is different. Today we delay. But the warriors of history, the real builders, changemakers, creators, they all learned to stop negotiating with procrastination. They made one brutal decision, one that separated them forever. They trained their minds to act regardless of mood. Think of that. Regardless of mood. That's power. That's sovereignty. Imagine if you did everything you were committed to, not just when it felt good, but exactly when it didn't. Your edge would be undeniable, because you've taught the body who's in charge. You've taught the soul to wrestle emotion and create movement. And movement creates achievement. Not overthinking, not perfect preparation. Movement. One thing dialed in. One task executed ruthlessly. One decision followed through without compromise. That kind of morning, that kind of steady discipline, it rewires your identity faster than you can imagine. It makes you magnetic, because you exude what most have lost, self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of greatness. Without it, every win feels like luck, and every loss feels like proof that you don't belong. But with it, you become unshakable. Everyone talks about motivation, but motivation is fleeting. Self-trust stays. It stays through fatigue, through uncertainty, through failure. Because deep down, if I say I'll do it, I will. No matter how small, no matter when, no matter what it costs me. That kind of power is rare, and it's minted not in front of people, but in the dark, in your room, at 5:30 a.m. when no one's watching. Don't miss this. Your confidence won't come from new followers, your income level, or your achievements. Those things are symptoms. Confidence comes when your internal compass is stronger than your external chaos. And the most trusted way to build that compass? By making a promise to yourself every morning, then keeping it. I will wake and I will rise. I will move, not for comfort, but for commitment. I will align my focus with my future, every single day, because that future needs something from you. It needs leadership, not flash, not trends, leadership. And leadership is forged by consistency under pressure. That pressure, it starts in the morning. The earliest seconds after you wake, when your willpower is either chaotic or conquered. Which will it be? Will you wake up and lead yourself? That's the threshold, the crossing point. Every morning is a line drawn in the sand. On one side, the past. On the other, possibility. Your feet hit the floor, and you decide, do I re-enter who I used to be? Or do I step into who I'm building? And let's be clear, if you delay that decision, you've already lost the day. Because when it comes to routine, hesitation is regression. You either lead or you follow. You either rise or you sleep through destiny. These aren't metaphors. These are laws. And isn't it time you obeyed the law that leads to everything you want? A law that doesn't bend for moods or weather or opinion. A law that states, if you win the morning, you multiply your life. If you wander in the morning, you fraction your results. This is how greatness compounds. Not with giant, dramatic actions once a year, but with stacked alignment every day before breakfast. Just like compound interest builds wealth, compound discipline builds identity. Want to become someone the world respects? Start by becoming someone you can't ignore. Waking up and being you should be the most powerful event of the entire day. So make it one, even if it starts with 5 minutes. Even if you stumble at first. Build mornings forged in truth. Truth about your flaws. Truth about your hunger. Truth about what needs to die in you, and what needs to finally be born. Because every time you recalibrate your routine, you're not building habits. You're hammering your name into the stone of legacy. You don't become legendary by accident. You become legendary when your mornings are shaped like swords, forged in fire, sharpened in silence, and drawn with conviction. Because when the world wakes and watches you rise with that kind of intention, it pays attention. But more importantly, you pay attention to your time, to your health, to your voice, to your impact. You stop reacting. You start constructing the story, brick by brick, step by step, before the world even rubs the sleep from its eyes. That's the real morning miracle. And it's not sold in books or courses. It's built in your blood. Every time you whisper, "I am," and prove it with action. Here we are. All the words, all the momentum, all the fire unleashed in these pages, all pointing to this one moment. Holy, final, uncompromised. You feel it in your chest now, don't you? Not just inspiration, but conviction. Because this isn't motivation anymore. This is remembrance. You're not learning something new. You're remembering who you are, who you've always been, beneath the delay, beneath the noise, beneath the snooze potential. And if there's one thing I hope has ignited inside you again, it's not perfection. It's possession. Taking back what was always yours. Your future, your focus, your fire, and yes, your mornings. Because the truth you've avoided too long is this. Every morning, you are either reinforcing your limits or exercising your freedom. There's no neutral ground. There are no normal days. There's only decision. Only the sacred space where you cast your vote, once again, for victory or for vacancy. Look around this generation. It's never been easier to look successful. Never been easier to create the illusion of momentum. But the inside, the routines, the rituals, the foundation are often hollow. And hollow structures don't weather storms. But you're done with hollow. You're ready to become solid. Steel under the surface. Spirit behind your stride. Conviction guiding your calendar. And you do it every morning. You walk into the first hour, not as a thief stealing scraps of energy, but as a king, a queen, ruling over sacred terrain. You no longer try to be focused. You are focused, because that identity no longer needs trial. It is chosen, moment by unimpressed moment. You become dangerous to delay. You become offensive to passivity. You become the living evidence that legacy isn't random, it's rooted. Let's lay it bare. If you look back in 10 years and your life is still where it is, you'll know exactly where it broke. In the mornings you gave away. The days you began in drift, not design. The time you allowed your initiation hour to be designed by algorithms instead of authenticity. But that doesn't have to be your story. Because now, you remember the miracle. That the most powerful thing in this world is not time. Not your circumstances. Not even your talent. It's choices. And no choice is more potent than the one waiting for you tomorrow at dawn. Will you hit snooze? Will you check notifications? Will you say, just 5 more minutes, while a version of you dies a little more slowly each day? Or will you rise like creation itself, with the kind of fire that turns routines into rituals, and rituals into revolutions? Because I'll remind you of this again. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are not broken. You are just one non-negotiable decision away from reclaiming every step of your life. Decide that your feet will hit the floor with authority. Decide that stillness will meet preparation. That intention will meet iron discipline. That your morning won't be borrowed from anymore. It will be guarded like gold. Live like someone who understands their first hour is sacred. Because it's in that hour where most people lose their lives anonymously. But you're not most people. You are the rare. And what do the rare do? The rare wake differently. They rise with a fight in their breath. They open their eyes, not for rest's sake, but for reasons. They remember that comfort didn't build legacies, conviction did. And the rare don't chase balance, they soldier forward in rhythm. Rhythm with their calling. Rhythm with their God. Rhythm with their unmatched, unmistakable capacity to lead, live, love, and launch. 1 million people will sleep through tomorrow. But those who win, those who rise first with truth, will shape a decade. Not all at once, not with grand gestures, but with mornings. Devoted, delivered, defended. So here's your final declaration. Say it, now, with all the strength you've found again inside yourself. I no longer postpone my power. I no longer shrink at sunrise. I don't need another plan, I need execution. I don't need inspiration, I am already the fire. I will lead myself in private, so I am unshakable in public. I own my mornings. I claim my crown before the world opens its eyes. I rise, ready to become undeniable. This is no longer a reminder. This is a rebirth. And you are no longer waiting. You're walking through the fire, through the fog, straight into the legacy you were born to create. So go tomorrow. Set your alarm not for your convenience, but for your calling. Then rise, fully, brutally, lovingly, and finally, forever deliberately. The world will see the difference. But more importantly, so will you. Now take this flame into tomorrow and prove to yourself, before the world even opens its eyes, that you were never meant to play small. You were built to lead. And it starts with one morning done right. Let it be this one. But what happens when you do everything right, and life still hits you in the mouth? What happens when you rise early, speak your declarations, move with fire, and the world answers with chaos anyway? Let's talk about it. Because this isn't just about perfect mornings. This is about unbreakable rhythm. And rhythm isn't tested on easy days. It's tested in the dark. You see, anyone can show up when it's sunny. Anyone can meditate when the bills are paid. Anyone can journal when there's clarity on the horizon. But what about when nothing makes sense? When the fog is thick, the anxiety heavy, and your reflection feels unfamiliar? Do your routines still hold? Here's what the great ones learned. It's not about how many days you win. It's about how you respond on the days you don't. Because the world will disrupt your flow. That's not a possibility, it's a promise. And when it happens, what you do next determines who you become. Your reaction to resistance reveals your rhythm. That's what separates the dabblers from the disciples. The surface-level motivation seekers from the masters of adaptation. Resilience isn't how loud you roar. It's how quickly you return. Return to truth. Return to practice. Return to the mirror of your morning where no one watches, but everything counts. You want the long game? Then build rituals that outlive your emotions. Let me say that again. Build rituals that outlive your emotions. Because if you only act when you feel like it, you'll be a slave to your feelings. You'll rise only when the sun shines inside you and stay small when life turns cold. But the rare ones, they've removed emotion from commitment. They wake up with heartbreak burning in their ribs, but still put both feet on the ground like soldiers. They lead themselves through divorce, death, depression, and still make the bed, still move the body, still light the candle, still return to the rhythm that refuses to die. That's unshakable. That's uncommon. That's the precision of purpose. Because hear me, this isn't just about mornings anymore. This is about becoming the kind of person who doesn't break when the environment does. That takes design. That takes depth. That takes the kind of inner gravity that doesn't disappear when the applause stops or the inspiration fades. And that gravity, it's built in the returns. Every time things fall apart and you come back anyway. Even if it's quiet, even if it's shaky, even if you're crawling back into the sacred rhythm one breath at a time. That return, that's when the universe takes you seriously. Because anyone can start strong. But when it gets ugly, when your goals mock you, when progress slips, when pain enters, what do? Do you quit? Or do you return? Do you ghost your greatness? Or do you say with trembling hands, I'm not done yet? Bob Proctor used to say, discipline is the bridge between thought and accomplishment. But what carries you back to that bridge when your mind says it's too far? Identity. Identity is the deeper current beneath discipline. It says, this is not about how I feel. This is about who I've decided I am. That decision must be stronger than your doubt. It must stand taller than your circumstance. And it must live even when your mood is buried 6 feet under. Because life will try to break your rhythm. It will interrupt your mornings with sickness, loss, detours, rejection. And when it does, it doesn't ask for permission. So you must be ready to fight for remembrance. To say, life can take everything, but it will never take my practice. Let's call it what it is. Resilient rhythm. And no one models this better than history's misunderstood geniuses. Thomas Edison, burning through 10,000 failed prototypes to light up the world. Did he stop after 100? 1,000? No, he returned. Walt Disney, rejected by investors, told he lacked imagination. Bankruptcy, breakdown, betrayal, he returned. Harriet Tubman, risking death to free others, guiding by moonlight and faith. She returned. Again, and again, and again. None of them were perfect. They were simply relentless. And relentless people have one thing in common. They never let their pain become their pattern. Yes, they suffered, but they never fed that pain until it became habit. They refused to build a home in heartbreak. And that's your mission now. Rebuild your rhythm, even in ruins. If your morning routine has failed you, maybe it's because it only worked when life cooperated. Forge one that works even when the world doesn't. You don't need control. You need coherence, alignment, adaptability, that daily return to who the hell you really are, no matter how chaotic the outside becomes. Because you can lose your business, your schedule, your comfort, your audience. But if your foundation lives in your return, you will rise again like you've always belonged in the fire. And when the storm passes, because it will, you'll be the one still standing, still writing, still rising while others were waiting for things to go back to normal. But you built your own internal normal, a sacred structure no crisis could crush. Now let's make that concrete, because philosophy has to become practice, or it's just noise. When you fall, because everyone does, don't wait weeks to rebuild your groove. Build a return protocol. That means a stripped-down, bulletproof version of your morning that never dies. Not perfect, not long, not fancy, just non-negotiable. 3 simple rituals that keep your identity from floating into oblivion. Stillness, even just 2 minutes. Before the noise, before the to-do list. A breath, a return to now. Gratitude or reminder, one deep thank you or one anchoring truth. I'm still here. My pain isn't the end of my story. I've come back from worse. One sacred action, movement, writing, prayer, creation. Something done for you, not for performance. Something so small you can do it even if your world is in pieces. Those 3, they are your restart button, your signal to heaven and to yourself that you are not enslaved by adversity. You are leading through it, because leaders don't lead from ease. They lead from essence. And that essence is forged in how you show up after life knocks you down. Let's be clear. You don't have to rise in fire every morning, but you do need fire inside you when you rise. You don't need to win the first hour perfectly, but you must honor it faithfully. If your morning routine has failed you before, let it go. Release it. It wasn't rooted in the full strength of your identity. That's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Now you know better. Now you build a new rhythm, one that can awaken in the dark, return in the silence, and still roar loudly enough to shake the heavens. This rhythm, it doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't need outside permission. And it sure as hell doesn't need circumstances to calm down. Because it lives in you, in your spirit, in your strategy, in your commitment to rise again. And now, finally, you're ready to go beyond motivation, beyond productivity, beyond even resilience. You're ready to step into what only the rarest discover. Legacy rhythm. The rhythm built not for days, but for decades. If life were measured not in years, but in mornings, how many do you have left? Think about it. 30,000 mornings in an average life. Subtract the ones behind you, the ones already spent, the ones you slept through, scrolled through, or simply survived. How many remain? That's not a question to intimidate. It's a question to awaken. Because the people who truly live, not just exist, are the ones who rise each day with something far stronger than ambition. They live with legacy rhythm. A rhythm that doesn't crave hype. A rhythm that doesn't collapse at the first hardship. But a rhythm that pulses through the decades. Etched not in memory, but in impact. This is where most routines end. They stop at optimization, at hacks, at the illusion of productivity. But you're not here to optimize your time. You're here to maximize your meaning. So now ask the question that separates hustlers from legends. What am I really building? Because if your routine only serves today, if it only makes you efficient but never significant, then you're spending your most sacred energy, your first hour of life each day, on tasks that will be irrelevant in 20 years. Legacy rhythm demands presence and projection. Yes, you water the seeds now, but you plant the forest, not just fruit. So how do we build that kind of rhythm? The kind that can outlast distractions, decades, detours? We start by mastering energy, not time. That's the shift no one talks about. You can plan every minute of your morning, but if you leak energy through comparison, guilt, indecision, or burnout, then that schedule becomes a prison, not a platform. Energy mastery begins by knowing the 4 realms of your strength: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And your mornings? They must touch all four. Let's forge the foundation. 1. Physical energy. This is your fuel. Move your body. Spark your chemistry. You're not training for abs, you're activating life force. Tony Robbins jumps into 57-degree water each morning. Why? To remind his body, we do hard things. We take control. Not for health, for momentum. You don't need an ice bath. You just need devotion to motion. A walk under the sky. Push-ups while the coffee brews. Stretching while the day awakens. Whatever it is, make it yours. Make it sacred. 2. Mental energy. Clarity isn't a reward. It's a choice. And every morning, your brain needs direction. Ask, what matters most today? Where must my focus live if I want my future to be larger than my past? Simple questions. Use consistently. They strip away 99% of distraction. You want mental dominance. Don't let your eyes leave your mission until your mind is locked on your purpose. 3. Emotional energy. Most people let their feelings drive their focus. Winners let their focus reshape their feelings. Train it. Before you feel good, choose to focus on gratitude. Before you feel capable, act like you are, one small, sacred move at a time. Gratitude today isn't a soft idea. It's your psychological armor. Protect your state so deeply that the world feels it when you enter the room. 4. Spiritual energy. Call it God. Call it Source. Call it Universe. Call it whatever you want. But your mornings need reverence. Need awe. Need something bigger than your plans. Without it, you'll forever mistake activity for meaning. You'll trade gold for dust until something breaks. But when you take even one quiet minute to bow your head, still your soul, breathe towards something higher, you're not just calming yourself, you're calibrating legacy. Because let's face it, money fades, companies crumble, bodies change, but wisdom, truth, love, they echo forever. And when spiritual energy is rooted in your morning, you rise as someone the world can feel walking toward them. Not because of what you do, but because of the phenomenon you've become. All of this, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, they're not separate. They're symphonic. Together, they build the rhythm that lets you lead across years, not just checkboxes. You build not just a routine, but a reign, a quiet, unshakable kingship over your time, your energy, your soul. It's no longer about being productive. It's about being on purpose. Always, even in failure, even when off course, which means that even bad mornings are still part of your rhythm. You no longer judge your day by perfection. You judge it by devotion. Did I return to myself? Did I rise even slowly? Did I honor the silence? Did I take one step toward who I'm becoming? If so, you're building legacy. You're laying bricks your grandkids will thank you for. Not because you were perfect, but because you were present. Because you chose again. Every day. Without fail. Without retreat. This is the shift. Morning becomes memory. Memory becomes movement. Movement becomes meaning. And meaning becomes immortality. And that's what the world is aching for now. Not influencers. Initiators. Not performers. Preservers. Not just people who do more, but people who become more. And that becoming, that rare essence that turns fire into form, it begins at sunrise. Again and again. Quietly. Faithfully. Fearlessly. Because let me finish where it all began. You are not your routine. You are not just your behavior. You are not your current results. You are the builder of all of them. The designer. The initiator. The source. And if your mornings have been failing you, it's time to stop blaming the system and start listening to the soul. Your mornings aren't broken. They're just waiting. Waiting for you to show up. Covered in commitment. Soaked in self-leadership. Burning with vision. Recommitted to impact. And delivered with a tone that says loud and clear, I'm done postponing destiny. Now, take everything we've built and hear this final truth. The difference between the person you are and the person you're becoming is nothing more than what you do in the quiet when no one cares but you. That's where it starts. That's where it ends. So make that place sacred. Make it deliberate. Make it yours. And when people ask you someday, how did you build a life so full of power, clarity, passion, wonder? You smile, and you answer with one simple, eternal truth. It started with a single morning, done right. If this lit a fire in your soul, don't stop here. Share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Recommit, rebuild, rise again tomorrow, and every morning after that. Subscribe to Wisdom Foundry for more awakenings like this. Until then, remember, you were never meant to wake up average. So rise, like the leader you are.